You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, here we go. It's our first ever live Locked On Pistons postcast. So welcome one, welcome all. I'm your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. It's a new era for everybody. New era for the Detroit Pistons. New era for the Locked On Pistons postcast. So happy to have each and every one along for the inaugural show. And if you're new around here, this is Locked On Sports Detroit, your post-game destination for all things Detroit sports. That's right, Locked On Tigers postcast. We had a good run. Locked On Lions postcast in the midst of the season. Locked On Wolverines postcast and Locked On Pistons postcast. It's all part of Locked On Sports Detroit. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Shout out to the Everydayer. Shout out to Koo on Locked On Pistons the Locked On Pistons regular show. This is not disrupting any of that by any means. It's just an addition, just like we had with the Locked On Tigers and, of course, with Locked On Lions. So appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Pistons fall to the Pacers 115-109. We will break it all down. The Cade show was alive and well. The fourth quarter, not so much defensively for the Detroit Pistons. But before you go any further, I want to remind you that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. That's right, introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with all the new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. That's right. Today's episode sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And here we go, the JB Bickerstaff era, the Tristan Langdon era, and just about everything we had hoped for this Pistons era. New players to space the floor, free agent additions, the Cade Cunningham show. It was alive and well and functioning in the first half. A very solid first half of play from the Detroit Pistons. And Tim Hardaway Jr., another newcomer to the squad, opens the game with a couple of threes. And Detroit outscores Indiana 31-25 in the first quarter, 27-24 in the second quarter. And you feel like, all right, this is the Pistons squad we had hoped to see, playing great defense, and an Indiana Pacers squad who obviously is coming off of an Eastern Conference Finals run last year, loaded with weapons and all kinds of talent. And when you look up and down this first half box score, you're thinking this is the type of game the Detroit Pistons need to play. This is the type of game they need to go out and win. Now, fast forward to the second half, and even the third quarter was a little bit of everything, because you have the Indiana Pacers going on a huge third quarter run, a 13-1 third quarter run, but it was Cade Cunningham coming back with some impressive baskets that halted that run. And the Pistons actually closed the third quarter run on a 15-4 run. And you start to think, all right, this game can go down to the wire. Let's see what the fourth quarter has in store. And I love the way that third quarter ended with Cade Cunningham a triple. Great to hear George Blaha on the call, and with Special K and everybody that's a part of the broadcast. It's always fun to welcome in the new season, and you're on the edge of your seat after 3 quarters of play thinking, all right, can the Pistons pull this off? Because make no mistake about it, it'd certainly be an upset. Now, we all know what happened in the fourth quarter. Not good, as they say. And when you look at the way the Indiana Pacers were able to find success and compare it to what the Pistons did in the fourth quarter, they outscore Detroit 33-19 in that fourth quarter frame. And I wrote down the key telling stat. Doesn't take a genius by any means. The Pacers shot out better than 60% from the floor in the second half. And the Pistons, meanwhile, just go at 1 point 5 for 20 from the floor in that fourth quarter. And there was a couple of instances where it was a 5-point game, maybe a 3-point game, but there was one play in particular where Tim Hardaway Jr. drives, kicks it out to Isaiah Stewart, and he takes his first three-pointer of the game and misses it. That was part of 4 straight empty trips in it was a 1-point game. And from there, Mathburn hits a 3. Then Pascal Siakam gets a couple of buckets, one of them a dunk in transition, a part of a 7-2 run that put the Pacers up by 6 late in that fourth quarter. And they do not look back after that. So the other part, the technical foul from the Pistons. Don't love to see that, getting a technical foul for having 6 men on the floor. Ron Holland, I believe, was the guilty party in that. But you're looking at the 6 men on the floor thinking, what are we doing? This is a National Basketball Association game, and we've got 6 men on the floor. Not good as well. So iron out those kinks, obviously, as well. And other parts where the Pacers were just able to, essentially, you see the experience and the ability to put the game on ice and close it out and go for the juggler, whatever sports cliche you want to use there. But the Pistons' lack of experience and their inability to make winning plays down the stretch. And really, it started on the offensive side for the Pistons and really compounded into the defensive side with the Pacers getting the better shot selection, the better, easier buckets in that fourth quarter. And overall, you just chalk it up to the Pistons needing to be better in crucial moments in that fourth quarter. Now, individually speaking, Cade was phenomenal. That's going to be the easy takeaway. You look up and down the box score, and Cade jumps out at you, 28 points, 6 of 6 from the foul line, 10 of 23 from the floor, 2 of 6 from the long line. He added 8 assists. He was far and away the Pistons' best player, and he has to be. Now, the support of some of the additional players, you're going to talk about Tobias Harris and what he can add as far as spacing the floor, 13 points, but just 1 of 6 from the long line. Tim Hardaway Jr., we know he was brought in to space the floor and knock down triples. He was 4 of 7 from deep, which you love to see, 14 points with 12 of them coming from the long line and then the 2 free throws. 17 points for Jaden Ivey. Can this be a year where he really flourishes? We can say what we want about him not functioning or not having that chemistry with the previous coaching regime that was here. Maybe Bickerstaff can bring out the best in him, but ultimately not a lot of support from the bench. I mean, Malik Beasley with 14 points on 5 of 13 shooting. Perhaps he can help this squad as well. But overall, listen, we're going to hear it from the guys on the, I guess now FanDuel Sports, no longer Bally Sports, right? FanDuel Sports. We're going to hear from them all season. Oh, they're building and things are moving in the right direction. And Mickey York was already saying a lot to build on. And that's where, as a fan, it does kind of, you have to toe that fine line between patience and just continuous years and years of nothingness that we've had over and over. So trying to stay positive. It's only one game, and there's a lot to look at from this game and think, all right, you went toe-to-toe with the team that was in the Eastern Conference Finals 1 year ago. But want to get into some of the comments, because if you follow Locked On Sports Detroit and you follow or listen to any of our Locked On Tigers postcasts, any of our Locked On Lions postcast, Wolverines, whatever it is, I love to get into the comments because it is a collaborative program. And if you know me, my background in sports talk radio, formerly with 97.1 The Ticket, the Detroit Pistons flagship station, now with Locked On Sports Detroit, we love to chop it up. But Pistons fall in this one by a score of 115-109. The big telling statistic in this one, Pacers outscore the Pistons 33-19 in that fourth quarter rather. And for the entire second half, the Pacers score 66 points. They had just 49 in the first half. And for the Pistons, they have 51 points in the second half. So outscored 66-51 in that second half. And that's the tale of the tape. That's what's going to tell you where this game went awry. And you know what? That's where the Pistons have a chance. They have to be better, and they just were not in that fourth quarter. So we'll continue to break it down, continue to discuss what went wrong, what went right. And if you know me, I love to have a little studs and duds at the end and continue with our opening night takeaways. Pacers get the win. The fourth quarter is where it all turned, and we'll close it out with our studs and duds. So as always, thanks for making Locked On Pistons Postcast your post-game destination. Your comments are next on the Locked On Pistons Postcast. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons Postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right, NFL fans, listen up. Any fans, all you got to do is go to FanDuel.com for live odds. And right now, that's right, right now, FanDuel is offering a big return at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those live bets. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com. All right, Pistons fall in the season opener to the Indiana Pacers, 115-109, 0-1 in the new era. We'll continue to refer it to the new era. How long until that whole new era thing fades out? Well, anyways, the Pistons now will take on the Cavs on Friday. They'll play their first road game. But other observations tonight before we get to the comments, it's good to see Cade thriving, but the Pistons just became a little bit too one-dimensional in that fourth quarter, which is, I think, why you saw them struggle so much. And it's going to take some time to iron out, what that dynamic between Cade with the, on ball and there was at the end of the third quarter actually is a good example where he goes around the screen, pulls up, knocks down the triple, and you think that's exactly what you love to see. But Jaden Ivey, this is such an important year for him in year number 3. What can he bring to the table? I thought at times he was good tonight. And at times there was some plays that left to be desired. Isaiah Stewart, I just don't know where he fits as far as today's NBA. And that's always been the knock on him, but maybe he'll show us something this year. And again, all of the new additions you hope will eventually and sooner rather than later find a way to gel. But this is going to be an uphill battle. I know the sports books, and you look at the over-unders of what this team is expected to do, and the expectations are very, very low. Now, to get to your comments, as always, we invite you to use that comment function on the live Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of what makes the live show so enjoyable. Benjamin Foe, Ron Holland, bum. I mean, that didn't take long. There is no doubt about it. And I don't really know what to tell you on that. He was the guy with the that was the sixth player. I just don't know how that happens. I don't know how you come back onto the floor after you've been subbed out of a game. And I know I shouldn't fixate on that too much, but yeah, you look at a first round pick like Ron Holland. He played 15 minutes tonight, 2 of 6 from the floor, was unable to knock down a 3, 0 for 3 from the long line, and just 3 rebounds, overall -2. I know there's other ways to evaluate a guy's performance and ways he contributed, but yeah, we're going to need to see a lot more from Ron Holland in the near future. Maritime Adam, fan of the program. That was a heartbreaker. Cunningham and Ivey played well as usual. I thought the passing game was very sloppy. Yeah, there were some times where the Pistons made some, unforced errors and didn't necessarily look like, there's some of that rust. I guess if you're going to chalk it up to that, I know preseason is the point of getting rid of that, but it doesn't always work that way. But 14 total turnovers for the Pistons, 15 for the Pacers, relatively even team stats. And I'm catching the highlight now of Halliburton knocking down that ceiling 3. And I don't want to say game ceiling 3-pointer, but pretty much that was the dagger. And it was just, the guy was 0 for 8 from 3-point land until he makes the one that counts, and Siakam still had the confidence to go to him, and Tyrese Halliburton knocked it down. So on the other side for the Pacers, they're, like I said, they're loaded. They got a lot of guys that can beat you. Myles Turner led the way for the Pacers with just 20 points, which shows you how balanced that scoring attack was for the Pacers. Pascal Siakam with 19, and with 15, Halliburton, even though he really struggled shooting it, 1 for 9 from 3-point line, 6 for 18 from the floor. And again, just a number of guys that can really beat you for the Pacers. 19 for Mathurin as well. I thought he at times was one of the best players on the floor, especially in that fourth quarter. Seemed like he was a part of that big run that helped the Pacers pull ahead for good against the Detroit Pistons. And he shot a lot of free throws. I mean, 7 for 9 from the charity stripe for Mathurin. That being said, I want to get back to a couple of the comments. Demetrius McDonald, he's a regular on the Locked On Sports Detroit. We thank him for that. Big turning point in this game. When the Pistons, 6 players in the game. Technical foul, lose possession. Did I mention the blocking foul overturned by the Pacers challenge? Yeah, I've talked about the 6 men on the floor a couple of times. It was a costly technical foul. It was a 1-point game, I believe, at that time. But the call that was overturned, it was Tobias Harris that had the and one bucket, and it negated the and one bucket on the Indiana challenge. And at that time, it was almost immediately after the Pistons getting the technical foul for having 6 guys on the floor. And so and then you have the 4 empty trips, and the Pistons just aren't good enough to weather that type of storm. Not good enough yet, anyways, I should say. They're not going to be a team that overcomes some of those issues. At least not yet. We haven't seen it from them. And granted, it's 1 game into the season. So yeah, let's continue to take that one as it comes. All right. Corey Phillips says, I wasn't watching close enough, but did they end up doing a 9-man rotation? Yes. So that I think in this early of the going, or this early going, I think the rotations are still being sorted out. And, that's part of some of these early game samples to see what, that rotation looks like. But as far as the guys that played meaningful minutes, yeah, it's a 9-man rotation with, of course, Tobias, Hardaway Jr., Duren, Cunningham, Ivy, and then Holland, Stewart, Beasley, and Simone Fontecchio. So that being said, I think that will be what we see from this team moving forward, because it's what you're dealt with. It's the roster that you have, and it's not a roster that necessarily stacks up on paper as well as some of the other ones. But hey, you're number one. We'll see what has in store. Maritime Adam adds, we have the toughest schedule in the NBA, toughest start to the schedule in the NBA. And when you look at who the Pistons have, I mentioned the Cavs is who they have next, then Boston, Miami, Philadelphia. All of those teams to start the season are all and go ahead and add New York, the Knicks on November 1st as well. So you add all that up, and that is a very, very difficult schedule to start the season. So there you go. All right, we're going to continue to cruise along on a Locked On Pistons postcast. When we come back, we will wrap it up with our studs and duds portion of the program. Who stood out for all the right reasons and who stood out for all the wrong reasons? That's coming up next on the Locked On Pistons postcast. This episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by Game Time. That's right, the best ticketing app in the game, the only one you need. It's Game Time, and there's a number of reasons to love the Game Time app. I know from personal experience, it is far and away the best way to buy tickets to any of your live events. And I'm not just talking sporting events. Go ahead and get in on the action, concerts, as well as comedy shows. Whatever it is, you got to use Game Time. Now, here's why I love it. Game Time rewards waiting to the last minute. What do I mean by that? You're going to find the best deals in the last minute, because Game Time guarantees the lowest price, even leading up to the last minute. Now, the great thing about the Game Time picks, that's curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theaters, and so much more. My favorite part, the all-in pricing. You got to toggle this feature in the app because it'll show you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. That's right. We've all used those apps where you think you've got a great deal. You go to check out and it's not so good of a deal after the fee. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And don't forget about Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create that account, redeem the code Locked On NBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. All right, studs and duds portion of the program after the Pistons drop the 115-109 contest to the Indiana Pacers. Not good. And the Pacers outscore the Pistons 33-19 in that fourth quarter. And for my studs, it's very simple. It's Cade Cunningham. He was a stud tonight, and he has to be for this Detroit Pistons team. That's what you're hoping for. He's the face of the franchise. He really has to carry this team night in and night out. And at times you saw it from how good Cade can be. A prolific scorer. He was so good in that third quarter. That's where I turn to how good Cade Cunningham was in that third quarter. 18 third quarter points, and help the Pistons close that quarter on a 15-4 run. He was really, really good. I've already read his stat line, but it's worth repeating. So let me go ahead and give it to you one more time. 37 minutes. He shot 10 of 23, 2 of 6 from the long line, 6 of 6 from the charity stripe. Chalk it all up to 28 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds. 28, 8, and 5. Now, unfortunately, you do have to give a stud over to the other side. The entire balance scoring from the Pacers in that fourth quarter, and really the entire second half. Benedict Mathurin, 19 points, 20 points for Myles Turner, and 19 points for Pascal Siakam. Now, my duds. The Pistons' fourth quarter, and in particular, their fourth quarter shooting woes, 5 of 20, I mentioned that, and their inability to make the 50-50 plays, and some of the mental errors that we saw on display from this Detroit Pistons team tonight. The 6 men on the floor certainly qualifies as dud behavior. Dud behavior. So hopefully the Pistons can bounce back and get their first win of the season. It'll come your way on Friday night when the Pistons take on, hopefully it'll come your way on Friday night when the Pistons take on the Cavaliers. So look forward to a little Locked On Pistons postcast after that. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in to our live Locked On Pistons postcast. Make sure you check out Locked On Pistons with Koo. He'll have you covered day in and day out, every single day, your team every single day. It's all a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And don't forget, brand new, your favorite podcast. That's right. The Locked On Pistons podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. It's one stop for your ultimate team and league coverage, and it's delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. All right. My name is Jake Reitman. Again, if you made it to the end, just know that this is your post-game destination. It's real simple. We hop on live after most Detroit Pistons post games and chop it up with our daily, or whatever the schedule dictates, our Locked On Pistons postcast. And then the audio version is just, it is posted on the Locked On Pistons page, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. And everything is available on YouTube. Locked On Sports Detroit is where it all happens. So thanks so much once again for tuning in. Pistons fall to the Pacers. Final score, 115-109. The Pacers outscore the Pistons 33-19 in that fourth quarter. Pistons were really struggling shooting the ball from the field in the fourth quarter, just 5 of 20. And overall for the game, the Pacers shoot 50% from the floor compared to the Pistons 43. And from deep, the Pacers 9 of 31 compared to Detroit's 9 of 33. 29% for the Pacers, 27 for Detroit. All right, Pacers get the win, 115-109. Detroit will go for its first win tomorrow. Rather, check that Friday night against the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road against Cleveland. Until then, have a wonderful evening. Make sure you check out Locked On Pistons on the daily and subscribe. Like the video. Go ahead and share the video as well. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the Locked On Pistons Postcast.